Within the past couple generations, a lot of classic games have gotten enhanced ports and remakes on new systems. In the handheld world, there are a lot of these games coming out, allowing those classic games to be taken on the go. In the PSP library, I can think of lots of games, like Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy Tactics, or even some non-RPG games like Mega Man X. The unique thing about the Vita and the PlayStation TV for these classic games is the backwards compatibility aspect. On the off chance that these PSP remakes are not ported to the Vita, like Star Ocean Second Evolution is, new gamers can experience these games by downloading the original PSP versions of the games. One of those remakes is what we're here to talk about today. Here is my official retro review of what I think is one of the better PSP remakes, Lunar Silver Star Harmony. The plot of Silver Star Harmony, a remake of Silver Star Story Complete, takes place on the planet of Lunar, where the goddess Althena keeps peace and harmony with her protectors, the dragons and the Dragon Master. Many years after the disappearance of Dragon Master Dyne, a young boy named Alex, along with his songstress friend Luna, venture out across the world in a journey to become the next Dragon Master. They meet a lot of memorable characters along the way, some of which were involved with Dragon Master Dyne in ages past, and some are completely new for this new journey. Lunar is considered to be one of the most memorable RPGs of all time. I will not say that it's the greatest RPG that you'll ever play. There are a lot of people who reserve that title for other RPGs, like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VII. What I will say is that it has a lot of comical and cheesy lines to keep you laughing, and it is a story that is quite memorable. Lunar is a turn-based RPG that has a few combat specifics that makes it unique compared to other turn-based RPGs. The Silver Star Harmony remake is the most expansive remake the game's got. Lunar Silver Star Story can be played on a lot of different consoles, but Silver Star Harmony was the one that completely redid everything, from the way the cutscenes play out to how the visuals look. The most notable addition that Silver Star Harmony added, other than a few story changes, is the playable prologue that lets you play as Dragon Master Dyne and the other heroes as they fight off an evil force. The nice thing about this is that it adds a little bit more to the mythos behind Lunar Silver Star Story. The bad thing is that it's gained a lot of criticism because one of the scenes in it, many people think, gives too many hints on who the true final boss is. Now, when you're playing through this game, you have a very typical RPG progression style. You go around on a world map, and you go through towns and dungeons as you talk to people and advance the story, to fighting off enemies and bosses to advance the story as well. It's pretty typical for an RPG. The combat system, as I said before, has a couple things that are unique compared to other turn-based games. The biggest thing is the distance factor. In Lunar, many of your skills, especially physical attacks with certain weapons, only have a specific amount of distance they can travel. If the boss is clear across the stage from you and you have a sword, you can't just attack them with regular physical attacks from where you are. You have to actually use up some of your moves to walk across the stage to get to where they are to be able to do that. This is also very apparent in boss fights where you're standing on ground and a boss is in the water. You can't run up to the boss and use physical attacks with swords. You have to rely on skills and long-range weapons like bows. The other uniqueness in the combat system is the AI and auto battle system. In the tactics menu, you can go and set specific characters to do specific things, and you can let the AI do the game for you if you're just wanting to grind for a little bit. Note that this does not work in boss fights because you need a lot of strategy for each boss, but it's pretty nice if you just want to let the AI play the game for you as you run through a dungeon. All in all, Lunar is a pretty long RPG. Some veterans of the original game will claim that you can beat Silver Star Harmony about 25 hours. I've played Silver Star Harmony before, and the latest replay I did before this review took me about 40 hours. If you haven't played this game before, you should expect to spend at least 30 to 35 hours on the game, if not more. The presentation is where things get interesting. As I said earlier in this review, they completely redid the visuals. The original version of Lunar Silver Star's story had some very chibi looking 2D models on it. Silver Star Harmony has much more realistically portioned models that makes the game look like a completely new game, but also makes the battles look a little bit more in-depth and realistic. The 2D models are made in a way that they almost look 3D in nature. The nice thing about the presentation is that it looks surprisingly good on both the Vita and the PlayStation TV. Most PSP games have a little bit of degradation and a lot more jagged edges on them, even 2D games, when stretched out on the Vita and PlayStation TV, and Lunar doesn't have much of that at all. There is a little bit of blurring in the anime CG scenes, but in actual gameplay it still looks really good. The CG scenes are something that I also want to mention in this section of the review. Every anime scene that's taken in the game was taken straight from the original version of the game. Just like the cutscenes in God of War Collection on the PS Vita, they did not accommodate these scenes to display on the PSP or PS Vita's native resolution. It's still in the 4:3 resolution from those old style TVs, so you're going to be able to see a lot of black borders around them as they play through. They still look good and they still perform good, but it is clear that the developers did almost nothing to make this look optimized. The last thing I'll say about the presentation is that there are a lot of clashing colors when you're reading text on the screen. Whenever someone talks, notably in the visual novel style rather than NPCs, you see white text on a semi-transparent text box. The problem with this is that the box is semi-transparent, so when there's anything remotely bright behind the text, it completely fades and camouflages into what's in the background. Big problem here is that this makes a lot of scenes very hard to read. If you have a hard time seeing, then you're definitely going to have a hard time reading this text. It's the same on the Vita and the PlayStation TV. Even when I had it stretched out on my 19-inch monitor, it was still hard to read. This is definitely something that they should have fixed. Lunar Silver Star Harmony is the most advanced version of Lunar available on the market. On the downside, it still uses the 4:3 anime scenes from the PS1 version, and you've got a lot of color clashing with the text in the visual novel cutscenes. If you can manage past the text issues and try to read through it, you'll find a fresh take on a classic RPG, and the game is fun enough that it should be a part of any RPG fan's collection. PlayStation Vita Reviews rates Lunar Silver Star Harmony an 8 out of 10. If you would have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, or you can head to my site at vitareviews.net, where you can see more reviews, as well as looking at PlayStation TV compatibility or donating to my cause.